All right, I think we're good. Well, good afternoon. I'm Tobi Guennel. I'm heading up the product innovation organization at QuartzBio. We are one of the vendors that was talked about earlier, providing some solutions to helping with the technology side of what was talked about today, right? There's people, process, technology. What we are focused on is providing technologies that can ultimately empower the people and support the process around really the sample life cycle, start to finish. So thank you for joining me, and thanks for the biospecimen industry collaboration. We really did a really nice job of outlining the best practices, recommendations for sample management in precision medicine. And there's a few things that we've heard today, right, that are really important. One, high quality sample management is really important. I think everybody heard it. It's really powering precision medicine. Biomarker-driven drug development, right, cannot be done without biospecimens. So really key piece of the research and development process. Adopting standardized, interoperable systems, processes, and ecosystems enables really ultimately precision medicine at scale. It's an important process that has started over the last year, and I think will continue for a while as we head into the next years. I think the other part that we really heard is data is extremely important across the entire precision medicine value chain, meaning from sample collection all the way to having test results and using those test results. We see this here at Scope. There's more and more data scientists that are attending. There's more IT leaders that are attending to understand how can data be used, but also what technologies can be used to really pull the value out of the data. So in our presentation, we're going to go a little bit deeper on the technology side and how it can be used to empower the people in the process. And we think about it as a sample data value chain. So how does data move along the sample life cycle, and where are the challenges and opportunities there? Now, before we go there, last year I used ChatGPT to do a little bit of a joke. This year I wanted to see how we can step it up. So I was giving my talking notes to Google Notebook LM just to kind of show a little bit how AI has advanced over the last year. And it's actually going to help me to introduce my talk a little bit. So let's see if we can get this working.
Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. This time, we're taking a look at precision medicine.
Oh, very cool.
But more specifically, all of the data that fuels it. We've got a whole bunch of materials for this one.
Oh, wow.
A mix of presentation slides and speaker notes, all about the data side of precision medicine.
Interesting.
And, you know, the idea of like tailoring treatments to your unique genetic makeup. I mean, that's the big promise of this field, right?
Absolutely. That's the holy grail.
Yeah. But behind that promise, there's this whole complex web of data.
A ton of data.
Yeah. And our sources lay out this idea of like a precision medicine value chain.
Okay.
Which you know, it starts with collecting patient samples,
right,
and then analyzing those samples for like biomarkers, the little clues that kind of tell us what's going on.
Yeah.
And then ultimately, you know, using that information to develop those targeted therapies.
Right.
The problem is this whole value chain, it's often broken. Yeah, the data is siloed, and it makes it incredibly hard to see the full picture.
It's a common challenge for sure, especially with how much data is out there. I mean, the industry has seen something like 116% growth in just the last 4 years.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, just think about all the information coming from clinical trials, preclinical studies, even stuff like wearables now.
It's mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's a lot to handle.
Now, pretty cool, right? I did not give him any direction. I did not write a script. I didn't say who should say what. I just said, here are my talking notes. Give me a podcast-like introduction to the topic. So AI has advanced significantly. There's a lot of opportunities. We want to think about it a little bit, how we can use that, right, to really solve the challenges that we're seeing in the industry. Now, before we go into the sample data value chain, and I think it has been mentioned across the presentation, let's zoom out maybe a little bit. Precision medicine has grown tremendously over the last 15, 20 years. Over the last 4 years alone, 116% growth in this industry. And with that has come really a significant increase in the different approaches that are used to deliver, monitor, and reimburse therapies. So as a result, the precision medicine value chain consists of multiple data generation hubs, right? From clinical trials to prospective collections, to preclinical data, to publicly available data, and more data modalities are being added. We see cell and gene therapy adding different data elements and data modalities that are specific to those trials. We see the various eCore type of data from digital biomarker data from wearables and others. So there's more data coming. There's more data elements to think about that are being added to that ecosystem. Now, clinical trials alone are generating by themselves already millions of data points. 70% of those are typically lab data related. So most of the data coming in nowadays is related to data coming from biospecimens. I think what we also heard is there is a bit of a gap between the having data or collecting biospecimens to generate data and extracting the value out of it. And some of that is because there is a challenge of connecting all the data together. So let's take a look at what is causing some of the data value gap in the clinical trials. So the precision medicine value chain, and it was mentioned today, starts with sample data. And without sample data and high quality sample data, the chain is broken almost instantaneously. You can go anywhere if the biospecimens are of low quality, the data on biospecimens is incorrect, you're already on the losing track. So sample data is generated across the sample data value chain, starting from sample collection at sites, governed by schedule of assessments, to data entry in the ECRFs, flowing through central labs, testing labs, biorepositories, so many different stakeholders touching the data. Now, across that value chain, a lot of stakeholders also need information, right? They need access to information in as real time as possible. That may be the sponsors, but even the stakeholders that are in between want to know what is happening so they can be better prepared to support the clinical trial process. Questions like, where are all the expected samples collected that were supposed to be collected? Did they ship? Did they get to the lab? Were they tested as expected? Why are the discrepancies between EDC and the LIMS system? So without these answers, the sample data value chain breaks. So in reverse, by connecting the data across the value chain, you're getting better insights and enhanced data accuracy. You can improve operational efficiency and streamline time to decision making. So what does it take to effectively track samples and the associated data from collection at the site to generation of results? Now you have process and people and process. These are really important. From the technology side, you need to really think about two pieces. One, overcoming the data management challenge at each juncture of the value chain. And then you need to pull all this data together to generate sample intelligence for different stakeholders at different times and as real time as possible. So let's take a little bit of a future look at a vision of what a fully connected precision medicine value chain could look like, and how a platform-centric approach in unifying data can really enable supporting people and process, and how can you leverage AI on top of a platform to leverage its data. As mentioned before, there's different approaches on how to build a platform that is connecting all the data. That could be in-house solutions. It could be solutions like QuartzBio that is pulling all the data together, but the principles still apply. Same principles that I'm talking about are going to apply regardless whether it's regardless of the platform that ultimately is being used. So if you're thinking about utilizing a data-driven platform approach, you can have stakeholders bridge the gaps between these data silos, ensuring that ultimately information flows smoothly across the entire ecosystem. So having a platform approach that can pull data across the value chain allows you to then have information flow along that value chain as well. Now, the second part then is once you have the data in a centralized platform, you can lay on top various AI solutions, right? As As I mentioned earlier, and as everybody has seen, AI is pretty powerful if there is good data, and we'll talk about that a little bit more here over the next slides. So let's dive a little bit into the vision that we see of where this can go and what that may look like. And I think the other piece that's really important is what actually it would take to make that a reality. So before we talk about AI, let's maybe think about what are some of the key challenges that you need to solve to actually bringing AI solutions into a production-ready state, right? So that they're trusted solutions that the people in process can tolerate. The first piece is you have to have solid data foundation. And you talked about this quite a bit today. Without a solid data foundation, it's garbage in, garbage out, and you're going to be stuck no matter how smart your AI is. Second piece is solid security framework, right? You have to build the trust. You have to build the trust that data security, data governance are respected, that working in a regulated environment is not going to be put in peril by using AI solutions that distribute data everywhere. So it's really important that you have a very solid security framework that works within the constraints of a regulated environment, and that those solutions are validated just like any other technology that you would be using in a clinical trial setting. The third piece is around well-defined real-world use cases, right? It doesn't help to find a problem that fits your AI solution. You need an AI solution that helps you solve your problems. So being able to understand pain points, use cases, and then build the right solution to AI-powered solutions to solve those problems is really key, because otherwise you're trying to fit a square into a hole. The third piece is really to think about what comes next, right? Not just what is here today, but what comes next. So what are the next 3, 5, 10 years bringing? So building a scalable and future-proof implementation of technology is really important. The AI landscape especially is changing almost daily. You see new large language models, new agentic frameworks, all kinds of news you see about AI and what is changing. So building a framework where you can plug and play different types of advancements in AI is really important in order to be able to leverage not just what is available today, but any advancements coming in the future. So what we are showing here on the top of this slide, the bottom of the slide is really kind of the foundation that we talked about: security, solid data foundation, being able to support ultimately the use cases by having all data centralized. So what we are showing on top is the vision of what these AI solutions could look like. So on top, what you see is a precision medicine AI agent network that incorporates these principles of solid data foundation, security, well-defined use cases, and scalable implementation, and ultimately envisions a future where life science stakeholders, right, all the different people and stakeholders that are involved are empowered by seamless, semi-autonomous agents that can help you do your day-to-day task, right? Ultimately shifting from doing tactical day-to-day operations really to focus on strategic initiatives that you're trying to ultimately get at by empower your research objectives. So let's dive into that a little bit on what that AI agent network could look like. Let's start with an overarching virtual assistant. You can almost think about that as an AI agent that orchestrates the overall interactions with the people, the processes, but also other support technology that is involved in precision medicine. It's like a conductor that ultimately is working with your orchestra to make beautiful music. It could be the captain, the quarterback of your football team. So really something that is organizing all the different workflows that are happening and helping to surface the right information, but also working with other AI agents to ultimately support automated and autonomous workflows. The next layer are what we call data, what could be data management agents and intelligence agents, right? If you think about the process, one, you have to pull all data together, you have to map it in the standardized data model, you have to execute data quality checks of various kinds to ultimately generate information that somebody would want to consume. And then the second part of that is intelligence, meaning being able to have information presented and consumable in a way that makes it easy to action on. So pulling out information in a way that ultimately makes it actionable, right? That could be dashboards, that could be queries that are being sent to different systems to inform sites, to inform central labs that there are data issues, but really ways on how information can easily be consumed. And the last piece are what we call auxiliary agents or helper agents that are kind of like your stage crew, right? They're working in the background, you may never see them, but ultimately they're really important to perform very specific tasks like generated data visualization, manage workflows, so something that is really underneath the hood and is helping these overarching agents to do the day-to-day work. So now, after we've gone through the different components, maybe let's take another look at the big picture of what this precision medicine AI agent network could look like. The network is ultimately a robust and dynamic system designed to provide the comprehensive support across the multiple task categories that ultimately you have to do anyway on a day-to-day basis, right? It's ensuring that it's more efficient, it's more effective, and it's supporting R&D programs. So again, 4 categories: data management, navigation, meaning being able to navigate this entire technology landscape, and helper agents, and each doing distinct tasks that are orchestrated by an overarching virtual assistant. Now, if you look at this, ultimately, these are categories that you or your teams are already doing on a day-to-day basis. Somebody has to do data management, right? And they're spending a lot of time on it. Somebody has to generate visualizations, dashboards, and they're spending a lot of time on it, right? If you can shift the focus from those more tactical activities to actually having the data managed and generating the visualization insights and dashboards, but then really acting on those, so looking at how can we improve the process, how can we use that information strategically to make things better, that's the vision that we ultimately are working towards. So let's take a couple of use cases and see what that may look like in the future. We focus on 2 use cases. There's a lot that you could choose, but we focus on a couple of them, focused around information at a site level and see how we can maybe help with some of the challenges. The first one is real-time sample monitoring, meaning being able to extract insights, what's happening at the site, are samples collected as expected, are they shipped? If not, if an expected event that should have happened did not occur, what can be done to support the process of investigating why. The second piece is more sponsor-centric, being able to have high-level views, high-level information based on sponsor-specific business rules and metrics and thresholds on those metrics that would potentially trigger information being sent to the right stakeholders to be able to act on these benchmarks. So let's dive into that vision a little bit and how could a precision medicine AI agent network help here? So these are semi-autonomous AI agents that ultimately work hand in hand to provide comprehensive coverage of trial operations, right? From oversight to intervention and reporting. Why semi-autonomously, right? There's always, human in the loop is always important, right? Certain decisions may have to be done by humans. They should not be done autonomously. But being able to get to the point, providing the right information, that decision can be made in an informed manner, I think that's where, what the focus is. Now, certain aspects could potentially be fully automated, like opening a query to the site, opening a query to a central lab for information that's missing or samples that were expected. There are maybe certain aspects that different groups may want to automate completely. So just looking at the top level, the virtual assistant basically leverages intelligence agents to track the progression of the clinical trial, right? It has a schedule of events. It knows what is supposed to happen when, based on information from the EDC, from the IoT, knows what patients are enrolled, what those patients should be going through in terms of sample collection, and is checking whether these expected events are happening. As soon as something is not recorded, they will be able to then invoke other agents to follow up. It could be with the site staff to say, hey, this sample was supposed to be collected. We didn't see a collection. Did you collect the sample? Or it could be the sample was collected and is supposed to be shipped within 48 hours, but nothing has happened across 48 hours. So being able to kind of automate that process of checking, then providing information to the right stakeholders to act on, and being able to autonomously do so is a opportunity that we see on streamlining that process. On the other hand, if you look at it more in a sponsor-centric way, the intelligence agents may offer adaptive benchmarks to report on site and vendor metrics based on user-defined, meaning your own rules on what these metrics should look like for a given clinical trial for you as an organization. And these KPIs then could be used to report out if something happens, meaning you're falling below a certain collection compliance threshold, to be able to get insights into if a site potentially is showing a collection that is below a certain threshold. So by leveraging these benchmarks, intelligence agents can ultimately then empower stakeholders with the valuable insights that they need for kind of guiding the clinical trial process and facilitating more informed decision-making. So this high-level conceptual workflow really exemplifies the vision that we think we can work towards, having a semi-autonomous system that enhances the efficiency and effectiveness of trial operations. Now let's take a look at a couple of ways on how what that may look like. So let's start with asking simply a question, or the virtual assistant is asking a question, show me all the samples that were expected but were not collected, right? Simple question. We all know getting the answer to that may not be that simple. So it's pulling out information from the various data sources. It's managing all the data into a centralized system, and ultimately then it's generating a report and the visual that is showing here is what the difference look like, right? This is a discrepancy. You can see that 88 samples in this case have a really high non-compliance rate. There's a lot of samples missing, and you can kind of get a quick high-level view of what that looks like. Now, you probably want to dig in, right? You saw visit 3, in this case, has a lot of missing samples, right? So can you then go dig into that information a bit deeper and say what sites actually at that particular visit have missing samples? Now you can then generate a report that basically is listing out what samples were actually expected to be collected, at which site, and send that information to the right stakeholders. In this case, maybe the site staff to say, hey, these samples were expected, did you collect them? So being able to autonomously send that information to the right stakeholders to then follow up is absolutely in the realm of what AI will be able to do in the near future. Let's take a different look at this and look at it from a sponsor-centric perspective. Same type of question, expected versus collected, and you basically are generating a similar visual as before, but here maybe the dashboard goes actually to the sponsor, right? Different groups, different stakeholders, a different view of what you may be interested in. Maybe you don't want to see the dashboard all the time if the threshold of non-compliance is below a certain level, and you only want to see it when it drops to a certain level that you're not comfortable with. So you can really generate different types of information if you do have a consolidated data asset in a centralized platform, and then pull out the right information. Here's an example of what are the sites that have the most open data queries, right, that have been opened through different systems. You can look at what is the turnaround time for different vendors in terms of collection of the sample and then the actual testing of the sample. So different metrics that ultimately can be defined by you to report out to and get the information that you need. So to wrap up, right, let's go back to our initial version of the future of clinical and sample operations and imagine a world where you do have a platform, right, that consolidates all that information, that builds a robust data foundation that you need. And you layer on top a AI agent network that operates seamlessly and semi-autonomously, connecting the data across the entire sample data value chain and ultimately extends that beyond just the sample metadata, but also pulls in all the different biomarker test results that ultimately will be generated at some point. Intelligence platform with a strong data foundation ultimately empowers stakeholders, right, to have the data, to trust the data, and be able to then impact trial operations. It gives you a full view of sample intelligence through automated workflows, start to finish, centralized visibility to access to sample collection, shipping, and inventory information, enhance sample and data quality, and really be able to improve trial efficiency through automation. Again, this is ultimately meant to empower people and process, right? It's not going to happen by itself, but the goal is to empower the stakeholders that need to work on these challenges on a day-to-day. Now, this vision seems, pretty ambitious. However, we, at QuartzBio, we are already implementing part of that vision, or working towards that vision. We have an intelligence platform that already is supporting hundreds of clinical trials. It has been in production for almost a decade. The first version of our precision medicine AI agent network, containing several of these sub-agents, are ready to be put into production as of January, and ultimately it showcases our commitment to work towards the vision that we laid out here. Ultimately, leveraging that integrated approach, our goal is not just to enhance data accuracy and reproducibility, but ensuring operational efficiencies and acceleration of delivering novel therapies and really shifting from the manual day-to-day tactical task, shifting the focus more to the strategic parts of biospecimen operations.